finally back from Germany, gonna talk about improving Worlds, my performance at Worlds, and my overall experience. Starting with number 1, how to improve Worlds. Currently the format is 5 different decks, 2 legendary. What's a legendary deck? A legendary deck are legendary restrictions that they set on each character. For example, if you want to play Kaiba, you must play Obelisk and 3 Blue Eyes White Dragons. Now what's the purpose of this format? Diversity and to attract new players. The problem with this format is it is a non-competitive format. The player base cannot relate to the format, and it is leading to lucky 3-0 sweep grand finals 2 years in a row. Uninteractive grand finals where one player gets crushed. My proposed fix for Worlds, Conquest format. 3 different decks, win with all 3 decks. Why am I proposing this instead of side deck? Well, it's the next best thing next to side deck because I know Konami will not do side deck. Side deck would be ideal for the competitive players, but you know, for the viewing experience and Konami wanting to push diversity, I think Conquest format is the next best thing. Hearthstone's World Championship uses Conquest format. It is more skillful, and the decks are more relatable, so the player base could actually copy and get excited to use the decks that wins Worlds. So let's compare Conquest to the Grand Finals. What would have happened instead, or what could have happened? So first of all, in the Grand Finals, we had Kobayashi versus Hamada, a 3-0 sweep. No cutscenes, which is the purpose of the legendary duels. No interaction, and this happened for 2 years in a row. Ideally for Konami, we have an exciting Grand Finals. There's only so much they can control it, but the format we have now is leading to this happening much more likely, which is why it happened for 2 years in a row. Well, Dkayed in Conquest format, you just have to win with your 3 decks, which is exactly what Kobayashi did. So what's the difference with Conquest format if they were to apply that instead of the 5-deck format we had for Worlds? The main difference would be that Hamada would be allowed to reuse his decks that he lost with. Game 1, he played a very powerful deck called Triamids. He did not make a single play, not one. He drew for his turn, passed without a play, then Kobayashi OTK'd. That's not fair for Hamada. Hamada had a very strong deck. He should be allowed to reuse that deck instead of it being a best of 1 format, and best of 1 will never be balanced. That's another big problem with this 5-deck format of it essentially just being best of 1, best of 1, best of 1. You don't feel like you're really defeating the player, you're just going best of 1, best of 1, best of 1. Conquest format, you're literally conquering your opponent. Every deck you bring, you are defeating your opponent with all of them. With the 5-deck format, you get 3-0'd, you don't get to use your 2 other decks. That's it. You have no control of lucky or unlucky matchups. Just best of 1, did you win, you lost, it doesn't matter, you move on to your next deck. And for Konami, in case you want reference to how Conquest format exactly works, this is from the Hearthstone World Championship documents. In addition to my suggestion, the Hearthstone World Championship, they make it a little more spicy by making you submit 4 decks instead of 3, with your opponent being able to ban one of your decks. Now, you don't have to go that far. We could just do 3 decks, win with all 3. But if you did want to spice it up, you could have us submit 4 decks. That's right, us. I'll be back next year. And then one of the decks can be banned. So if I see a Shizu on my opponent's lineup, I could ban a Shizu because I know that Seal Tombs probably counters one of my decks. So that's my quick suggestion on how to improve World. Have a Conquest format, have the competitive players be happier, have the player base be happier, make the format more relatable. I have used Conquest format for my tournaments for a very long time, but with just 2 decks, win with 2 decks. As I said earlier, the majority of the player base, they like side deck better, the competitive players. But when I do not run side deck for my tournaments, I make sure to run Conquest format. It has received a lot of great feedback. Viewers love watching it. And then when you get to see the deck list of the winning player, you know that every single deck is good from that player because they have to win with all of their decks. I would love, after the Grand Championship, to copy the first place deck list, bring them onto the ladder, and make a bunch of content or have fun with it like everyone else would like to do after a World Championship. And as far as new players go, they will see a passionate player base rooting for the top players in a competitive format, excited to see their deck list, excited to play their decks, excited to see both players play in a familiar and relatable format that they could take onto the ladder themselves. The new players will see all this excitement. They will see an exciting Grand Finals, and that alone will make them want to play Duel Links. Instead, we have year after year year after year of the grand finals being a sweep, which can be avoided if you just make the format a bit more competitive while we're still able to use many different decks. Konami, I just want what's best for the game. As the game does better, I do better. I do hope you do consider some of this information or look into other ideas. If you wanted a quick other idea, which I'm not sure would be too good with Duel Links, it could be last hero standing, which would be last character standing, last deck standing. And the format basically is you must defeat all of your opponent's decks. That means if I win game one, then I have to play that same deck again, which allows my opponent to counterpick my deck. But the deck I defeated, they can no longer use that deck. The problem I could see with this in Duel Links is you could be afraid of a really powerful deck just sweeping all of your opponent's decks, and that could lead to another unexciting grand finals. All right, now on to the performance of my worlds. The format was best of one duels, 5 different decks, which I do not think best of one duels will ever be balanced, but oh well, that was the format. We played round robin, not Swiss, so your win or loss early is exactly the same as winning or losing late into the rounds. You do not pair against your performance. Now, my overall match record was not good. Most of my matches were 5 games. We went to all 5 games where a lot of people will get 3-0'd. You only see 3 of their decks, or even 3-1. So unfortunately, with most of my games going to game 5, a lot of my losses ended up being in the 5th game, which means all my wins previous within that match do not count towards my overall match record. But because I kept going to game 5, which meant all my matches were very close, my overall duel wins were very good. They were as good as a player going into the top 8 for day 2. My poorly timed losses in game 5 is what screwed me. My thoughts: anything less than top 4 gets the same prize support as everyone else. So if you were top 8 or last place, you got the same prize support. Everyone wanted to at least get top 4. Top 4 gives you a custom TCG card, which you could sell for, I don't know, $5,000 to $10,000. First place could sell for like $50,000 to $60,000. None of my match losses were due to poor play, so I am proud of how I played. I do not have regrets with how I played. What happened, happened. Everyone at Worlds was a great player. They all deserved to be there. I also do not regret the decks I brought. I just think in the end, it was just bad luck, which, as you saw in the grand finals, you can get 3-0'd like nothing, which never happened to me, but this format kind of led people down that path of it potentially happening. I wanted to go to Worlds, play my best, hopefully not have any misplays cost me a round or a full match loss. So while my overall match record did not look good, not good enough to make day 2, I could at least be proud of my wins being as good as a top 8 player, but obviously I wanted to do much better at Worlds. Best of one feels kind of random and lucky. But even with the perfect format, it is a card game with lots of luck involved. That's the game we play. Everyone played well, and congrats to the top 4 that made it. Now, what were my decks? I played Desperado, Magnets Legendary, Subterror, Ancient Gears Legendary, and 6 Samurai. Thank you, RRR, for making top 8 stats of the decks, how well they did in the top 8. So I could show you that real quick. Spellbooks had a 55% win rate, so maybe I should have played Spellbooks. 6 Samurai underperformed in the top 8, only a 48% win rate. And you know what? My 6 Sam deck betrayed me. I could not make Xian for the life of me. Goddamn 6 Sam! Trimid's 55% win rate, another good deck. I chose to play Subterror over Trimid, and you'll see why in a second. Ancient Gears, 37% win rate. And you know what? When I think about it, my Ancient Gear deck performed quite poorly also, but I do not regret bringing it. Desperado, or any variant of Desperado, a 67% win rate. I think clearly the best deck going into Worlds. I performed the best with my Desperado. It was usually my game 1 deck. Blue Eyes White Dragon, 37% win rate. Pathetic! Good thing I did not bring Blue Eyes. Not that it mattered. Subterror within the top 8, a 63% win rate. And I could tell you my deck did very well within the round robin. It was a great surprise, does well against 6 Sam, did well against Desperado. I enjoyed playing my Subterror a lot. Now, there are no stats for Magnets, but I could tell you that my Magnet deck, mostly I played the mirror match. And when I played the mirror match, if they open up the magnets and I open up grass that's greener, which mills my deck to be equal to their deck size, and we're both playing 30-card decks, I'm screwed. So here are my decks real quick. This is my Ancient Gear Legendary deck. I chose to play my 2 Econs into this. If you play Econ in this, you cannot play it anywhere else in your other decks. Standard build for my Legendary deck, you had to play Ancient Gear Golem and 3 Reactor to make it a Legendary deck. Labyrinth Builder Subterror. I enjoyed this deck a lot. I would probably take out the Bacon Saver for an 80 changer. I did enjoy 2 Stygo. I initially had 1 Stygo, 180 changer, but I felt that opening up Stygo was much more important. I would Neos Fusion, send a Warrior to the grave, tribute for Stygo, set my Subterror Final Battle, easy peasy. I was incredibly salty against a Spellbook matchup where he had a level 8 Silent Magician, and I really needed 80 changer to put it into defense with my Neos Fusion. Magnets. This deck is lit. It's a lot of fun, but when you play the mirror match and you open up your grass that's greener, it's no fun, no bueno. To make this legendary, I had to play Gandora, I had to play Valkyrion, and I had to play 2 beta magnets. Gandora is surprisingly amazing. Gandora plus Block Dragon. Block Dragon does not get destroyed by your Gandora. Gandora is not once per turn, so you could wipe the field, banish onto a Neos Fusion Brave Neos, then do it again when they protect. Wipe it, wipe it, wipe it. 6 Sam. So the first thing that sticks out is where are the Legacy Clashes? I put them in another deck. My 6 Sam deck was mostly my 5th deck, and boy, did the D Prisons work when they worked. If I drew them, we had Despacito Dragons swinging into them. That was great, but the problem with this deck was that I was not opening up Xian, and it really screwed me. Oh well. And then my final deck, Desperado. I put all my Canadias and Clashes into this deck. I front-loaded everything into this. This is the most powerful deck going into Worlds. It performed the best. It was nuts. But despite it being one of the best decks going into Worlds, I would still have a matchup where I open up Desperado Dragon, Clash, Canadia, and they would Cosmic Cycle my Canadia, and there's just nothing I could do. But in a Conquest format, when I randomly lose to bad luck with my best deck, I would be allowed to play it again in Game 2 and or Game 3. So yeah, I'm deeply sorry for anyone that I let down, anyone that was rooting for me to get first. I tried my best. I played well. Again, I will reiterate, I do not think I lost any of my rounds due to poor play. I could just hope that next year will be a little bit more competitive with the format, whether I would do better in it or not. Who knows? I'm just not a fan of this best of 1 duels 5 different decks. Now my overall experience with Worlds. Overall, it was a very well-ran event, so good job Konami on that. Thank you for hosting this event. I really wish that Gia would have been allowed to be on the tour with me and the dinner because she could have recorded a lot. She could have given me a lot more pictures to do instead of me focusing on Worlds. I would have a lot more to show you. Now this is in despite influencers and them allowed to have a +1 to be in the dinner and the tours with them, but they had a different deal than the players. The players were not allowed to have a +1, so I was not expecting any special treatment from anyone. Part of me kind of wished I would have been treated as an influencer and a player so that I could create content and focus on the event, but all is well. I'm happy to say that I have established basic contact and communication with Konami, so there's a lot of misconceptions that I've cleared up with Konami. For example, Konami thought I was making money off of entry fee for my events, which I am not. All my events which I require an entry fee for, 100% go into the prize support. I make no money. I lose money on the prize support. A Konami employee was so surprised to hear that from me. They thought that that was a core part of my business and that Konami really did not like that about me. So I don't know if that's going to change their view of me because now they're going to know that I'm not making money off of prize support. In fact, I'm losing money because I have to pay taxes on that. I, of course, make money by people subscribing to me and donating to me, which has nothing to do with the prize support and entry fee that I charge for my events, like the MCS being $1,400. I'm literally just doing money because what else do I give the players? I can't give away my socks. If people want to play for my socks, we could do that. After me telling Konami that, they seemed a lot more willing to potentially work with me in the future on maybe some special things. I can't really talk about it now, but I could just tell you I now have basic communication with Konami. Maybe great things will be happening with it. Also, I learned that a lot of big things are coming in the future for the game, Yu-Gi-Oh! In general. I can't really talk about it. I am nervous and also excited. Meeting the community was the most amazing part of the entire trip. Thank you everyone that came up to me for a picture, to meet me, to sign your card, sign your booty, sign your chest, whatever you had me do. Thank you for meeting me. And here's a nice little picture of a lot of people from the Discord. You could even see Guns Blazing amazing snuck in there, and Yummy is in there also. So once again, thank you all. Even if you are not at Worlds, you are the only reason I could do this. You're the only reason I could do this for a living. You're the only reason I could run events, have the best website, have the best Discord, have the best stream, have the best content. Every day you all motivate me to further push out more content, new ideas, and new things. Thank you, thank you, thank you, fools!